Welcome to the lecture about SPSS and using it to find the indicators of central tendency. I'm assuming that you already watched the lecture and are familiar with how to get your data into SPSS. So this is actually the second video that you should watch about this. We're going to use the same data set that we used for the graphing. You'll remember that this is a teacher, a pretend teacher, who was looking at the differences between girls' absences and boys' absences over the school year. So I'm going to slide this data set over here. And here's our SPSS data editor with the data that we entered. And here is the output file. Let me close this one. This is the output file that had the graphs on it. And if you keep your output file open as you're working through this, or you reopen it, every time you have SPSS do something, then it will pop into what the computer did and give you your output. So let me move this down into the screen so that you can clearly see it. Okay, so here we have our data. And I want to show you how you can access the analysis for the indicators for central tendency. Up at the top, you have different menu drop downs. So we're going to go to Analyze, and we're going to go to Descriptive Statistics, and I'm going to go to Frequencies. Now, let's think through the variables that I've got. What I really want to know is what's happening with the absences. So I'm going to click on that. Then I'm going to go into my statistics and tell SPSS what I want to know about those absences. Well, here's all our central tendency. I want the mean, the median, and the mode. I'm not so interested in the sum. I want the standard deviation. We'll go ahead and get the variance, the minimum, and the maximum, and the range. So those are the things that we've been talking about. And when I hit continue and say OK, up pops my output window, and here's what I get. So for the absences in this classroom, the mean for the entire year is 6.94. The median is 750. The mode is 8. Here's the standard deviation and the variance. The range, the minimum was 3 absences in a month, and the maximum was 12. Now, one of the problems that we've got here is that this put all of the students together. I'm sorry. This put all of the students together, and you'll remember that this teacher was interested in comparing girls and boys. So I'm going to go back here, and this time, before I have SPSS analyze this, I'm going to split the file and tell SPSS to compare the girls to the boys. So I go into my data, and one of my choices down here is to split the file. Notice the choices. I can analyze all the cases, do not create groups. That's the default, and that's what's been happening. But I want to organize the output by groups and base them on gender. And I'm going to say OK. SPSS pops up, and in my output it's giving me a record that I asked SPSS to sort the cases by gender. So coming back to my data file, I can now run the same analysis with the frequencies. Everything will stay the same. And when I click on OK, this time I get the information for the boys, the mean for the boys, the median for the boys, the mode for the boys, and the standard deviation and variance. And there's their range. I shouldn't have checked off the frequency table. That's not as interesting to us for this example. And then I get gender equals girls, and I get the same thing. And I can compare the two. Now, with my file still split, it's still split, I'm going to go up to Analyze, and this time I'm going to do Descriptive Statistics, and I'm just going to ask SPSS to give me the descriptives that I would generally use if I was writing this up. Now this time I want absences. Here's my options. I want the standard deviation and the variance, the minimum and the maximum. I want the mean, and I'm going to say OK. And here SPS gives me my output of my, I'm sorry, I'm doing that, descriptives, the gender for the boys. And here it gives it to me in a little bit different chart. The same information, but a little different chart. So here's my standard deviation, my mean, my minimum and my maximum for the boys and for the girls. So I've got it that way. So that splitting the file is really important. Now the problem is that your file stays split until you tell it to not be split. So you always need to remember to go back to the data, split the file, and tell it to analyze all cases, do not create groups. I always try to remember to do that before I finish up.